Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever time it is, I hope you're doing well. You're here with email, and we're going to go over the executive orders day 2, where we're going to be watching the executive orders for all of January, as well as go over the second executive order to rescind all of Biden's uh, previous executive orders that Trump has felt that were not in his best interest. So what we're going to do first is we're going to essentially go over the all of the executive orders from January. Once we're done with that, we're then going to jump into the executive order that we're going to be reviewing. After we're done reviewing that executive order, we will then be going into a few videos of executive orders and a few other housekeeping things. So let's go ahead and take care. So when we look at the executive orders that were given on January, executive order ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity. The next one, revocation of certain executive orders. And okay. So next executive order, designation of Ansir Ali as a foreign terrorist organization. Next one, removing barriers to American leadership in AI. Next one, strengthening American leadership in digital financial technology. Next one, President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. Next one, declassification of records concerning the assassination of President JFK. The next one, enforcing the Hyde Amendment. Next one, emergency measures to provide water resources in California and improve disaster response in certain areas. Next one, council to assess the Federal Emergency Management Agency. The next one, the Iron Dome for America. The next one, restoring America's fighting force. Next one, reinstating service members discharged under the military's COVID-19 vaccination mandate. Next one, prioritizing military excellence and readiness. Next one, protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilation. Next one, expanding educational freedom and opportunity for families. Next one, ending radical indoctrination in K through 12 shooting. So, I mean, K through 12 schooling. I'm sorry for saying that. Next one, celebrating America's 250th birthday. Next one, additional measures to combat anti-Semitism. Next one, unleashing prosperity through deregulation. So looking at all of these, let's go ahead and just look at them. And I'm just going to look at the ones that I feel that are very important, and then look at the ones that are important, and then the ones that are not important. So the first one ending illegal discrimination, restoring merit-based opportunity. I feel that this one is um, very hypocritical. I really can't even. That's zero. That's not important because discrimination. A lot of what he's doing is in forms of discriminating. When we talk about the next one, revocation of certain executive orders, I feel like it's three. Very important. We need to go over that. So so this will be in. This will be a very important, and I say that going over the certain executive orders is because we don't know which ones he's referring to. So I would like to know which ones he's referring to. Designation of Ansir Ali as a foreign terrorist organization. I say that's it's important, but it's not very important. I just say that because if that's the case, how come we're not talking about people who are going against Ukraine and have them in a negative light? In fact, we put invading people in a positive light. Removing barriers to American leadership and AI. This is important. I'm not going to say very important, is because it is a known factor that we do need to get ahead of China as far as their AI and their electrical vehicles and just their technology. We need to really be more competitive with what they make. Instead, we're falling behind. Next one, strengthening American leadership in digital financial technology. Um, I would say that's just important. If we say President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, I would say this is not important because what he's going to do, he's not going to put the best of the best in there. He's going to put people who look like him. That's first. And I say that because like you can only get so far when you deal with people like him. And as soon as you get there, as soon as you have given you yourself your vote, at that point you don't mean as much. So with that being said, there's no reason to really feel that he's going to look out for everyone's best interest. Declassification of records concerning the assassination of JFK. This right here is something that was important, but it's no longer important because a lot of the documents that they did have that they uncovered, actually everyone knew everything except they actually gave social security information for those who were involved in that mission. So that really was not the best. We talk about the Hyde Amendment. I'm not exactly sure what that is. So let's figure that out. Okay, so the Hyde Amendment is a legislative provision that bars the use of federal funds to pay for abortions, except in cases where the pregnancy is the result of rape or incest, or when the life of the mother is in danger. Key facts. First passed in 76, named after Congressman Henry Hyde. Next fact, it is not a permanent law, but a rider regularly attached to annual appropriation bills, particularly those funding the Department of HHS, Health and Human Services. It primarily affects Medicaid, meaning low-income women who rely on federal-funded health insurance are most impacted. Last note, over time, similarly, restrictions have been applied to other federal programs in populations. Examples given: federal employees, military personnel, Native Americans, people in federal prisons. All right, the controversy that's involved in this one. Supporters argue it prevents taxpayers from funding a procedure many morally oppose. Again, the supporters argue it prevents taxpayers from funding a procedure many morally oppose. Critics argue it disproportionately harms low-income women and restricts reproductive rights. So, with this being said, the supporters feel that this, who are in agreement to remove the high, feel that it is an immoral procedure that's being done, and the reason why they feel that it should be gotten rid of is because of that. While the critics who feel that they want to keep the high feels that it disproportionately harms the low income population and also restricts their reproductive rights. So let's get back to the next one, and I'm gonna put a V on this one, because when you think about the concept that someone who has been raped or some form of incest that has taken place, and you still do not allow an abortion, which we know that the baby is going to come all jacked up, and then after that, if the baby came from the process of rape, then the father has now in a way has been like a parasite to that person's life, and now you're forced to see the parasite's spawn. So that leads to a lot of shaky ground. I feel that in those cases, someone should have the right to an abortion if they would like. Let's move on. Emergency measures to provide water resources in California, improve disaster response in certain areas. Now, the thing is, if America and all the other countries that wanted to help were not coming to the aid of America, then this would be something I would feel that would be very important. I feel that this was really not important. And the reason why is because if the governor of California telling you that that is not a valuable plan, you're supposed to listen to the person who has the highest court of the state. Why? Because they have their own team, and their team then evaluates the basic needs and wants of the land. As president, you don't have enough resources to know what the California governor knows as far as what will be effective as far as. And that goes along with the reason why I'm saying that it's horrible to have a president that relies on common sense over the sciences. Let's go to the next one. Council to assist the Federal Emergency Management Agency to assess. I feel like that's really not important. And I just say that because that's more of a Congress issue. That should not be something that the president should try to put his fingers on. Now, the Iron Dome for America, this is very important for us to look into. And I say that because what he means by Iron Dome is more likely not even he's not really probably meaning literally an Iron Dome. It's probably the defensive systems that other countries may already have, I guess. I'm not exactly sure, but that's something that we need to figure out. Restoring America's fighting force. This right here is important, but is not very important. And I say that because with the fact that we have less service members in is not because of the lack of desire or want. It could just be that we just are not offering what they're looking for, and it's not a forced fighting force that people are forced to register for. It is a free, it's a free volunteer fighting force. So yeah, let's go to the next one. Reinstating service members discharged under the military's COVID-19 vaccination mandate. At this point, is important for those who were cut, but it's not important for everyone, for the majority of us. So I'm gonna put it in there, and I just say that because technically speaking, if they were discharged, they probably were. I'm gonna put an I. If they were discharged dishonorably, then that's important. But if they were discharged other than honorable, and it was dishonorable discharges, then yeah, it's important to kind of look after that. But if not, then it's not important at all. Prioritizing military excellence and readiness. This is just an I importance because it's always important, and it's always been a priority. And we know it's always been a priority based on the amount of money that we spend every year on DOD. DOD is the one thing that we spend more money on than anything else. All right. So the next one, protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilation. I'm gonna say this: it is important. I'm not gonna say it's very important because the amount of times that it's happening in real life is not really happening. People are not sending their kid to school and then all of a sudden they come back and their child used to be a M and now it's a F, or a F to M. That's not happening. Now they might be indoctrinated into theology and thoughts and ideology on some stuff, but as far as them going and getting surgically mutilated, and the teacher is a transgendered person who's kidnapping your child and taking them to some odd out place so that they can essentially be turned into whatever, that's not happening. So that's the reason I say it's important, but it's not very important because the frequency is not important. It's really only important because America feels like it is something that's important. So we're going to put an I. Expanding educational freedom and opportunity for families. So this is a tricky one. And I say it's tricky because if it wasn't a war against the DOE or a war against education, because the dumber that a population have to have, the dumber a population is, the easier it is to control them. It's harder to control an intelligent population because an intelligent population is going to be thinking about life bigger than just let me go work, let me eat, let me see my family. The more intelligent the people are, they're going to think outside of just who is in their household. Even thieves, murderers, and rapists love their family and put their family above everything else. So in order to determine if someone is a great person, the matrix has to be bigger than, do they take care of their wife? Do they take care of their child? Do they take care of their family? The matrix need to be, how do they treat their community? How do they treat people who don't look like them? That is a true matrix of a person's true personality. If all you do is look out for your family, you can still be Adolf Hitler. All right, let's move to the next one. So when we talk about expanding that one, we're going to say this is in, just because the people that are quote unquote implementing it are not implemented for the right reasons. They're going to be trying to use the freedom of choice just so that they could take money from the public schools in order to weaken the public schools. And the way that they're going to weaken it by the numbers is every child that goes to a public school, the school actually gets a little bit of money for that student being in that school. So when you actually remove that student from being in the school, you are actually punishing the public school attendee. Now, the person who went off to the other school might be good, might be great, but as far as the attendee who happens to have essentially stayed in the school, they're going to be losing resources. Special education is something that the private school does not have to even deal with. Special education is a government task that has been given, and they are the ones who really oversee special education. The idea, the 504, all of that, the modifications, that is done because of the DOE, and that is a federal government program more so than a state ran program. Not every state probably has it. That's really what it boils down to. So let's move to the next one. Ending radical. In fact, we're gonna put a variable on that, because if we're looking at the fact that the real reason of why they're trying to eradicate it, DOE, and the real reason why they're putting that there, we need to dive more into that. So ending radical indoctrination in K through 12 schooling. So this is very important, but is not due to people, quote unquote, with the LGBT community pushing that motives and things like that. It's not because of that which makes it important. It's important, I feel like, due to the opposite. We need to actually not use the concept as what's that? The that one program that they have been going haywire over, where essentially, it's all of the ones where is white guilt is one of the reasons why they don't want to go over it. So yeah, when it get back to me, I'll get back to it. So the next one, celebrating America's 250th birthday. This is not important. Why is it not important, you ask? Because China's been here for 5,000 years. Why is 259 important? 5,000. All right. So additional measures to combat anti-Semitism. This right here is not important just because we've already been combating that. That is something where it's like saying Black Lives Matter to me, and I say that because it does matter. Oh, wait. You're right. It does matter. So we're going to put an I. It's not very, but it is I, because Black lives does matter. The reason why you say anti-Semitism matters or something of this nature matters because obviously people have been acting anti-Semitic. So that's the reason why it matters. All right. Unleashing prosperity through deregulation. So this is very important because he is with the Reaganomics, where he thinks that things are going to trickle down. And if anybody was alive around that time will know that that's not the way it works. Trickle down economics does not work. If you give the big business the opportunity to do the right thing and have no kind of consequences, we've seen that the whole populations have, in a sense, have been poisoned. the land have been poisoned. We talked about it last week where we talked about the zombie whales. And with deregulation, there are going to be more companies like that. And then we're actually going to need Captain Planet. We're actually going to need the earth, wind, fire, and all that heart, and bring all that stuff together and have Captain Planet come and save us, because there are real life enemies. There are real life threats, but there's no real life heroes like Captain Planet. So keep that in mind. The heroes is us. We are the heroes. So act accordingly. All right. So that concludes all of January. So let's go ahead and go over, how do you find these on your own? So the way that you find these on your own is going to the Federal Register's website. All right, going to federalregister.gov. And the one that we were going to be looking over was the second one that he signed. So let's go and look at it. So let's go ahead and look at it. The Executive Order 14148 of January 20, 2025. Initial rescission of harmful executive orders and actions by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the U.S. It is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1, proposed purpose and policy. The previous administration has embodied deeply unpopular and inflationary, illegal, and radical practices within every agency in office of the federal government. The injection of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, into our institutions has corrupted them by replacing hard work, merit, and equality with a divisive and dangerous preferential hierarchy. Orders to open the border have endangered the American people and dissolved federal, state, and local resources that should be used to benefit the American people. Climate extremism has exploded, inflationary and overburdened businesses with regulations. To commence the policies that will make our nation united, fair, safe, and prosperous again, it is the policy of the U.S. to restore common sense to the federal government and unleash the potential of the American citizens. The revocation within this order will be the first of many steps the U.S. federal government will take to repair our institution and our economy. So what I'm gonna say about the purpose, him just trying to get rid of the DUI, and him trying to really look at the people who look at climate as people care about climate as like something wrong with them. Why do you care about the climate? Or the ideal of global warming is not there. Those are things that, in theory, people like Carter and Biden really wanted to uplift, because they cared about us as a middle class. They went about things the legal way. They cared about procedure. They cared about process, and they just didn't want to just do things just all nilly-willy, knowing that it will be reversed coming up. And that's one thing that this guy right here, when I say this guy, I mean Trump essentially is going about it saying, I don't care what you think, and going through and ripping up whatever's going on. Let's go to section 2, revocation of orders and actions. The following executive orders are hereby revoked. This is a laundry list. All right. Executive Order 13985, January 20, 2021, advancing racial equality and support for underserved community through the federal government. Executive order, the next one, same day, ensuring a lawful and accurate enumeration and apportation pursuant to the decennial census. The next one, same day, organizing and mobilizing the U.S. government to provide a unified and effective response to combat COVID-19 and to provide U.S. leadership on global health and security. That's COVID-19. Next one, preventing and combating discrimination on the basis of gender identity or sexual orientation. Next one, ethics commitments by executive branch personnel. Next one, protecting public health and environment in restoring science to tackle the climate crisis. So he's rescinded that. Think about that. Why will you rescind something that is supposed to be trying to tackle the climate crisis? And all right, moving on. Next one, revocation of certain executive orders concerning federal regulations. Next one, revision of civil immigration enforcement policies and priorities. So the next one that he has canceled, which was the very next day, 21st, ensuring an equitable pandemic response and recovery. The next one, establishing the COVID-19 pandemic testing board and ensuring a sustainable public health workforce for COVID-19 and other biological threats. So the next one, improving and expanding access to care and treatment for COVID-19. Next one, protecting worker health and safety. Next one, supporting the reopening and continuing operation of schools and early childhood education providers. Next one, next day, January 22, 2021, economic relief related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Next one, protecting the federal workforce. Next one, January 25th. Hold on, time out. So he literally reversed something saying protect the federal workforce. Why would you rescind that? Oh, yeah, Project 2025. In Project 2025, it outlines in the chapter of bureaucracy where the alt-right essentially wants to eliminate the positions that are hard to get rid of. When you talk about government or federal workforce protections, that's essentially what that means. One, workforce protection could mean that you will have to respect the disabled workers. That's something that could be in there, that probably is in there. I'm not going to go through and stop to look it up, but we could really use our minds to think about how things have been going on, and the fact that Biden really was trying to look out for the disenfranchised people. Let's move to the next one. So this will be 3 days later. This executive order was signed January 25th, 2021, enabling all qualified Americans to serve their country in uniform. So instead of him being divisive and trying to push Americans' way, he's actually trying to bring them together. All right, let's move on. Executive order. This is the next day, on the 26th of 2021, January. Reforming our incarceration system to eliminate the use of private privately operated criminal detention facilities. Man, Biden really was trying to look out. So reforming our incarceration systems to eliminate the use of privately operated criminal detention facilities. So instead of him having it where it is private business, where people like Michael Jordan, not the actor, but the basketball player, could invest in these prison systems and make money off of, instead of that being a potential, trying to eliminate it and potentially make it into a public type thing where the government is paying for it, that would be great. And I say that because a lot of mismanagement is done because it is a privately owned prison systems a lot of times. Let's move on to the next one, which was signed on the 27th of 2021. President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. So it's kind of crazy that if you notice, President Trump, we just got through reading all of his. He actually had this one himself, but he reversed Biden's to create his own, so he can bring his own council in, I'm assuming. So okay. The next one, same day, tackling the climate crisis at home and abroad. So this goes along the lines of showing that he's against our breathing. He don't want us to breathe right. All right, we go to the next one. On the next day, the 28th of January, 2021, strengthening Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. Next one, signed February 2nd, 2021, creating a comprehensive regional framework to address the causes of mitigation, to manage mitigation throughout migration. Causes of migration, to manage migration throughout North and Central America, and to provide safe and orderly processing of asylum seekers at the U.S. border. Next one, same day, establishment of interagency task force on the reunification of families. So this is, I'm assuming this is where when families are separated and have been moved to another, like let's say a case that just happened where a young lady, she was a citizen, but her mother and father wasn't, and they were then moved out. This will have to deal with cases like that, where let's say that the daughter was not moved with them, where the daughter was left in America and they went to whatever country that they somehow try to reunite them. That's a beautiful one. I like that one. All right. Next one, same day, restoring faith in our legal immigration systems and strengthening integration and inclusion efforts for new Americans. So 2 days later, February 4th, 2021, rebuilding and enhancing programs to resettle refugees in planning for the impact of climate change on migration. So this goes along to show you that we talk about climate and environment. It's like a war against those who care about climate change. So we are now to February 14th, 2021. This executive order, establishment of the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships. All right, so he's basically trying to get the White House a partnership with the neighborhood and faith-based organizations. So 10 days later, February 24th, 2021, revocation of certain presidential actions. So it took President a little longer to reverse what President Trump did, and that's probably what kind of made it so that President Trump did not wait. There's actually some things that was going on with the border when Congress were actually asked a few times to vote on certain bills that Trump advised those who wanted to work with him not to, in order for him to do it, so that way when he actually regained power, to make him look more powerful than if he allowed Biden to actually do the work. So that's something that a lot of people don't really realize that happened, but that actually did happen. You can look it up yourself. There's not enough time in the world for me to go back and fact check everything I said in real time. Now, if I was a person who was on the outside listening, then I could fact check, but I'm not, so I can't. All I can do is say, look it up, and then I can stop what we're doing. But then at that point, 2 hours will become 3 hours, and 3 hours become 5 hours. So let's move on. So, executive order signed on March 7th, 2021, promoting access to voting. Why would you cancel the access to voting? Next day, March 8th, 2021, establishment of the White House Gender Policy Council. Same day, guaranteeing an educational environment free from discrimination on the basis of sex, including sexual orientation or gender identity. All right. So you're discriminating against the LGBT community all through. All right. Let's move on. April 1st, 2021, termination of emergency with respect to the International Criminal Court. 8 days later, April 9th, 2021, establishment of the Presidential Commission on the Supreme Court of the U.S. A month later, May 7th, 2021, establishment of the Climate Change Support Office. 7 days later, May 14th, 2021, revocation of certain presidential actions and technical amendment. 6 days later, May 20th, 2021, climate-related financial risk. 8 days later, May 28th, 2021, advancing equity, justice, and opportunity for Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. The next month, June 25th, 2021, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the federal workforce. This is when DEI, when he signed it into the workforce. Next one, which signed August 5th, 2021, a couple months later, strengthening American leadership in clean cars and trucks. The next month, September 13th, 2021, amending Executive Order 14007. Let's look that one up. Okay, so it was President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. So essentially, I'm assuming it's just putting different people in there, and it was just an amendment. It wasn't getting rid of. So the next executive order signed on the same day, September 13, 2021, White House initiative on advancing educational equity, excellence, and economic opportunity for Hispanics. So what they did for the Asian population, they essentially did it for the Hispanic population a few months later. That's what it looks like. And then it looks like the on October 11, 2021, they did that exact same thing for the Native Americans and strengthening tribal colleges and universities. So they did the exact same thing for the Asian population, May 28th, where they did the exact same thing September 13th for the Hispanic population. Then they did the exact same thing October 11th, 2021 for the Native American population. And they did the exact same thing for the Black American population in the October 19th, which also was asked to be reversed. All right, so let's get to the next. On November 15th, 2021, implementation of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. 3 days later, November 18th, 2021, non-displacement of qualified workers under service contracts. We talk about the next month, December 8th, 2021, catalyzing clean energy industries and jobs through federal sustainability. December 15th, 2021, establishing the U.S. Council of Transnational Organized Crime. So this is something where they are looking at crimes that are happening abroad and in-house. All right, the next one, March 15, 2022. We're in the next year now. Advancing economy, efficiency, and effectiveness in federal contracts by promoting pay equity and transparency. The next month, April 5th, 2022, continuing to strengthen Americans' access to affordable, quality health coverage. The next month, May 25th, 2022, advancing effective, accountable policies and criminal justice practices to enhance public trust in public safety. June 15, 2022, advancing equality for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex individuals. Next one, September 12, 2022. Implementation of the energy and infrastructure provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. Next one, same month, September 30th, 2022, promoting the arts, the humanities, and museum and library services. Next one, October 14th, 2022, lowering prescription drug costs for Americans. Next order, December 13th, 2022, establishing the President's Advisory Council on African Disparity Engagement in the U.S. Next one, February 16th, 2023, further advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. Next one, next month, March 13th, 2023, withdrawal of certain areas off the U.S. Arctic coast of the outer continental shelf from oil or gas leasing. Next one, next month, April 6th, 2023, modernizing regulatory review. Next one, April 21, 2023, revitalizing our nation's commitment to environmental justice for all. Next one, next month, moving beyond COVID-19 vaccination requirements for federal workers. So This is them passing that it is a requirement for vaccination. They've gotten over the need for the mandate to be vaccinated. All right. So we're talking about later on that year, October 30th, 2023, safe, secure, and trustworthy development in use of AI. So this is them putting a safeguard. This is them saying, hey, we want to deal with AI, but we need to make sure that it's not going to become Terminator. It's not going to become Matrix. It's not going to become some freak show, or just some kind of thing that once you open it up and you invite a guest in, it's like vampires. You cannot uninvite them. At that point, it's a wrap. We're not invited. We're family. Come and get this blood sucking. That's what it happens when you invite it's a real big belief that I have. Once you invite, when you send an invite, you cannot always determine who accepts the invite once it's out there. So once I invite, let's say I invite 1,000 people, I cannot dictate out of those 1,000 who's going to show up and who's not going to show up. That's something you can't predict, and you never know what unwelcome guests that will come in the midst of you sending a whole big wide broad type of network where you allow anybody to come in. Let's move to the next one. So we're in the next year, February 1st, 2024, imposing certain sanctions on persons undermining peace, security, and stability in the West Bank. I mean, that sounds reasonable. Anybody who's undermining peace, security, and stability in the West Bank will most likely need to be taken care of. And that's the reason why he's putting sanctions on them. All right. Same year, July 17th, 2024, White House initiative on advancing educational equality, excellence, and economic opportunity through Hispanic serving institutions. The next one, next year, January 3rd, 2025. This is before he had to get up off of the seat. So these are the last orders that he could try to put in. So these are his last. This is the last things I like to be done as president, and I feel that this will really help us out. Let's go ahead and do these last things. That's what we're going into. So January 3rd, 2025, providing an order of secession within the Department of Agriculture. This is what he's done with all of these, the next departments. He signed the same thing for the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, Department of Treasury, the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget. Also, he did that with the Office of the National Cyber Director. Those are all of the, how many is that? 6 orders that he signed like that. So let's move to the next set. So now we're to the memorandums. So he had a memorandum that he said for the 3rd, designation of officials of the Council in Environmental Quality to act as chairman. With that being said, he did the same thing with the next few, where it was done with the OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, to act as director. Then signed one for the Office of Science and Technology Policy act as director. Then the same thing with the U.S. Agency of Global Media to act as chief executive officer. And then another memorandum where he designated another set of officials of the U.S. Agency for International Development to act as administrator. And same thing with United States International Development Financial corporation to act as chief executive officer. Then it's different kind of memorandums where this is more of a withdrawal and not designations. So the withdrawal of certain areas of the U.S. outer continental shelf from oil or natural gas leasing. And then it's the same one, but it's probably a different area that he signed on the 6th. Both those are signed on the 6th. So it's two different areas that he probably wanted to withdraw them from. So that's the reason it's two with the same title. All right. So we're talking about on the 14th, the presidential memorandum, certification of rescission of Cuba's designation as a state sponsor of terrorism. So they're no longer designated Cuba as terrorists, apparently. Then there was another one, the revocation of National Security Presidential Memorandum 5. We're not exactly sure what that is, but let's move on. So the hold on, let's see if we can look at the memorandums. All right, we're gonna have to come back to that. We're gonna have to put a pin on that one. So again, Presidential Memorandum 5, Biden, we'll have to look that one up. So the last thing that the executive order that was being reversed, January 16, 2025, providing for the appointment of alumni of AmeriCorps to the competitive service. So looking at all of these, you can see that it is countless orders that were promoting equity, inclusion, acceptance, and it has been something that has been an attack from Project 2025, which really should be called Project 1978. So this has been going on since 1978, that they've not really wanted diversity and inclusion. So this is bigger than Trump, and is older than many of us. I know it's older than me, at least. And so we talk about a lot of this health. A lot of it is dealing with health, the LGBT community, helping the LGBT community. COVID-19. The majority of this is health, environmental changes. Talk about migration against immigrants. Then we forgot about Executive Order 14019, which is promoting access to voting. So there's a beef against us being able to vote. A lot of this is dealing with climate. It's a lot of climate, a lot of just dividing us up by saying, race shouldn't be a thing, meaning that we should not look out for anyone but our own, which in his case is white people. And then a lot of infrastructure. There's a bunch of stuff to deal with infrastructure. Lowering drugs. And yeah, so looking at everything that was reversed, it just highlights the fact that this man is up to no good. And I just say that because everything that Biden really was implementing, really, most of this was positive in nature. So that right there is crazy to me. So let's talk about Section 3, implementation. to officiate the revocation described in Section 2 of this order, the heads of each agency shall take immediate steps to end federal implementation of unlawful radical DEI ideology. B, the director of the Domestic Policy Council, DPC, and the director of the National Economic Council, NEC, shall review all federal government actions taken pursuant to the orders, memorandum, and proclamations listed in Section 2 of this order, and take necessary steps to rescind, replace, or amend such actions as appropriate. Within 45 days of the date of this order, the director of the DPC and the director of the NEC shall submit to the president an additional list of orders, memorandums, and proclamations issued by the prior administration that should be rescinded, as well as a list of replacement orders, memorandum, and proclamation to increase America's prosperity. The NSA, the National Security Advisor, shall immediately begin a complete and thorough review of all national security memorandums, NSMs, issue security, domestic resilience, and American values, no later than 45 days from the date of this order. The NSA shall recommend the president NSMs for recession. Section 4, general provision A. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect 1. The authority granted by the law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof, or 2. The function of the director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. B. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. C. This order is not intended to or does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any partner against the U.S., its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other persons. And this was signed January 20, 2025. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about it. So the executive order titled the initial recessions of harmful executive orders and actions proposes the sweeping revocation of over 100 executive actions issued between 2021 and 2025. This order claims to dismantle policies rooted in diversity, environmental protections, public health, worker protections, immigration reform, and social equity, among others. Pros from the perspective of proponents of the executive order: reduction in federal oversight and regulations may reduce bureaucratic red tape, particularly in industries like energy, agriculture, and manufacturing, possibly encouraging investment in development. Next one, refocusing government priorities. Claims to reprioritize merit-based systems over identity-based policies. Examples given: ending DEI initiatives, aligning with conservative governance principles. The next one, immigration enforcement and border security, reversing orders related to asylum Reunification of migrant families and regional migration frameworks could be seen as an attempt to strengthen border enforcement. Energy independence and deregulation. Revoking orders tied to climate policy and offshore drilling restrictions signals a shift toward fossil fuel development and a rollback of environmental regulations. The next one, streamlining COVID-19 bureaucracy. Rolling back pandemic era structures may be viewed as streamlining the government response post crisis. Potential cost reduction could reduce federal spending tied to social, environmental, and public health programs. The cons. This is from the perspective of critics and impacted communities. Elimination of civil rights protections. Revoking Executive Order 13988, also 14021 and 14074. There are more than that, those three. Remove protections against discrimination based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and race, particularly in workplaces. Education, work, health care, and policy, policing. Undermining DEI and accessibility. Ending DEI initiatives. Examples given: Executive Orders 13985 and 14035 could limit efforts to address systematic inequality, reduce access for underserved communities, and decrease representation across the federal workforce. The next thing that will affect will be public health risks. Eliminating public error measures. The executive orders will be 13987 all the way to 14000 and also 14009 and 14070. This may hinder preparedness for future biological threats and reduce protection for workers and vulnerable populations. This goes back to talk about the COVID-19 efforts and then dealing with other biological viruses and infestations that could eliminate a lot of human life. All right, so the next one, weakened environmental and climate policies. Repealing climate-focused executive orders were 14008, also 14030, also 14057, and 14096. There are more, but these are the ones that were highlighted. So reverse emissions reduction goals, accelerate fossil fuel exploration, undermine commitments to climate adaptation and mitigation, harmful environmental justice efforts in marginalized communities, disruption to education and social programs, eliminating executive orders supporting equity for Hispanic, Black, Native, and Asian communities. Example, executive orders 14045 through 14089 and access to early childhood education. Executive order 14000 may widen achievement gaps. So by them eliminating these executive orders, there's already a gap. It's going to be increased. So the next thing that's on the chop block that's seen as negative will be the threat to voting access. Revocation of Executive Order 14019 undermines efforts to improve and protect access to voting, particularly for historically disenfranchised groups. The next con would be national security and global engagement. So revoking memorandum and orders related to international diplomacy, cybersecurity leadership, and science cooperation could diminish U.S. credibility and preparedness. So by us getting out of the WHO, and again, by us getting out of all of the international type of agreements that we've kind of already gotten, that's not going to make us look good on the long term. It's going to make us look like we flip flop too much, and it's going to make it hard for other countries who want to deal with us. So let's look at the next con: potential economic disruptions. While deregulation may help some businesses, it could also destabilize sectors tied to clean energy, healthcare, and tech regulations. Examples given: AI governance, clean cars, and this is harming long-term competitiveness. One of the biggest things that is disruptive with a lot of what they're proposing, not just with this, but just what they're proposing, period, is deregulation of a lot of things. One reason why stuff has become regulated was because of some kind of legal action that probably most likely have taken place that happened, and then some people paid, and then laws were made. Like, no one cares about the next family. I know that I keep talking and saying the same thing over again when it comes to that even murderers, rapists, and sadistic people love their family. And with that being said, I keep mentioning this because if we go with that thought process and we understand that the person is going to push it to whatever limit they can. We need to get rid of this chemical. Oh, there's a pond. At 2 a.m., we're dumping stuff in the pond. It's going to take us an hour to get rid of this way without paying, versus us doing it the legal way, which will make us pay, let's say, $8,000. It will cost $8,000 to get rid of this chemical the correct way, because we have to break it down and do all this type of different kind of processes before we actually get rid of it. Or we can just go ahead and pay these people to be on the clock to do it hourly to get rid of it. All right, so the last thing that we're going to be focused on is the concentration of power in the White House. Centralized authority in NEC and DPC to reverse a vast swath of policies, raising concerns about executive overreach and the erosion of checks and balances. All right, so what I'm gonna say is when it comes to us being able to do the best we can, we're going to have to essentially step up and get out of our comfort zone. And the reason why we're gonna have to get out of our comfort zone is because most times when we look at this type of stuff, we have trust and faith that our elected official is going to do the best that they can for us. When we see that they're not, this puts us in an awkward position, because now instead of us being able to move in a way that we don't have to keep an eye on things, we have to keep an eye on things. Wrong or right, our elected official, whoever we elected, most times we feel we have to look at, and they do get away with a lot of stuff that they shouldn't do. All of them, to Obama, Biden, Clinton, Bush, Trump, Reagan, all of them. Even Carter probably. But even though that's the case, we need to think about just like the public health. So one thing that you notice with the orders that Biden really tried to implement. He tried to implement it where he looked out for people's public health. He looked out for labor rights and consumer protections. He also looked out for the civil rights and the rights of all people based on race or sexual orientation. Those are things that he looked out for. He also tried to make it a point for offshore drilling to not be poisoning our environment, because it might seem that like Elon Musk said, well, if we deregulate it and we find out we need those guardrails, we'll put them guardrails back up. But in the midst of you doing those guardrails like that, can you imagine you cutting down a 250-year-old tree? That tree is older than the United States of America. Do you think that there's going to be a way for us to replant this tree or regrow this tree? All right. So with that being said, I'm gonna get off the environmental tip, and we're gonna just talk about just the last little bit about the COVID-19. Then the fact that we have the voting rights. So those are the last two things I like to focus on when we talk about the COVID-19. It President Biden inherited this government when COVID-19 was rampant, and he did the best he can to get ahead. I have a theory that if Biden was in, COVID-19 wouldn't have been as big of a thing. And it may be because they might not have had the reason to speak on it as much, but I also feel that that man has a heart and he would not have said, let's trade dollars for these souls for dollars. I don't care if these people die. I don't care. We're gonna make money off of it. How can we make money off of it? When he heard about it, he was like, okay, that's cool. How many people are gonna die? We're gonna make money off of it. So the next part will be dealing with the voting rights. Just the inclination that a president had to put in writing an executive order to protect voting rights. And for one of your first proclamations, technically your second proclamation, which was rescinding what Biden did, by you rescinding what Biden did, is like you basically rescinding the voting right executive order, and that's like saying number two, like get rid of the ability for people to vote without, blah, 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 blah. So they're going to make it a point to try to make the ID thing more of a thing. They're going to try to make it a point to have any kind of reason to disqualify those who they feel that are not going to vote in their best interest. Why? Because the less people that are voting, the less I have to care about the majority. So with that being said, we're now going to jump into watching a couple videos, and I will first, we're going to take a short intermission. See you in a sec.